Hello, this is Gary Templeton. This video covers the case Mobileye 2021, Robotaxi and/or Consumer AV. The Mobileye 2021 case is a strategy case that teaches the framework Look Forward, Reason Back, which is described in David Yaffe and Michael Cusumano's book, Strategy Rules, 5 Timeless Lessons from Bill Gates, Andy Grove, and Steve Jobs. The case is set in March 2021. Amnon Shashua, co-founder and CEO of Israel-based Mobileye, was preparing to meet with Intel's new CEO, Pat Gelsinger, to review plans for the future. Mobileye had been acquired by California-based Intel in 2017, but still operated independently. Gelsinger wanted to know from Shashua what could Mobileye do for Intel, and what could Intel do for Mobileye. Mobileye was the global leader in vision technology for advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS, with around 70% of the ADAS market and $1 billion in revenue in 2020, up 100% in 3 years. While Mobileye represented just over 1% of Intel's 2020 revenue of $77.8 billion, AVs could drive significant revenues for Intel by 2030, with Mobileye leading the way. Shashua's challenge was that consumer AVs were not ready for prime time in 2021. Concerns over safety, regulation, cost, and consumer acceptance pushed out the big revenue opportunities for at least 5 years. A nearer-term use case for AVs was the robotaxi market, fully autonomous, driverless taxis. Mobileye projected robotaxis to be a $160 billion market by 2030, and Mobileye could generate at least $15 billion in annual robotaxi revenue by the end of the decade. Shashua reviewed robotaxis as a necessary first step toward consumer AVs. The long-term question facing Mobileye was whether to 1. Invest billions of dollars to build out a global, vertically integrated robotaxi business, 2. Use robotaxis as an opportunity to learn and then revert back to a horizontal supplier of AV chips and software, and/or 3. Do both. Each strategic choice had different capital requirements, risk profiles, and margin opportunities. Shashua needed to decide which direction to recommend to Gelsinger, and Gelsinger needed to decide what he was willing to support. Your objectives are to learn how to look forward, learn how to make reasonable forecasts about how a high-tech industry is likely to evolve 5 to 10 years into the future. Also learning how to reason back, exploring how to develop a strategy today which would allow the company to realize its vision of the future. A third objective is to develop a model for the future of a key technology, autonomous vehicles, and finally, to predict the likely economics of robotaxis, a nascent business that was in its pilot phase in 2021. Note that there have been terrible forecasts for autonomous vehicles and robotaxis. Autonomous vehicles are very hard to achieve, and the problems are multifaceted. Look at these predictions by reputable industry technologists that were wrong. These predictions can be linked to an innovation S-curve. Everyone hopes for dramatically better performance over time. The S-curve shows the innovation from its slow early beginnings as the technology or process is developed to an acceleration phase, a steeper line as it matures, and finally to its stabilization over time, the flattening of the curve, which has corresponding increases in performance of the item or organization using it. And this leads to the question, why did so many companies and CEOs get their forecast wrong? Here are some potential reasons. It seems like a long list, but in practice this list is much longer. Virtually every aspect of AVs have hit obstacles that have taken longer and cost more than most executives expected. The case explains that many companies have tried simulations to solve some of these problems, but since AVs can kill people, simulations are not sufficiently reliable to address edge cases. Also, there remain big gaps in data, especially HD mapping, universal standards, the lack of regulatory approval, the high costs of LiDAR, etc. LiDAR is a method for determining ranges by targeting an object or a surface with a laser and measuring the time for the reflected light to return to the receiver. LiDAR is an acronym of light detection and ranging, or laser imaging detection and ranging. It is sometimes called 3D laser scanning. LiDAR is more accurate than radar and is considered a compact solution that enables a high level of accuracy for 3D mapping. It is a foundational technology for AVs and robotaxis. What's your vision for robotaxis? How far is the industry likely to progress versus the problems of 2021? You should focus on 4 key drivers of the future of this business. First, the likely efficacy of the technology. Second, consumers' willingness to pay and adopt the technology. Third, will this be a profitable business? What will the economics look like? What will competition look like? And 4, what is the likely regulatory regime in 2026? Part of the framework for looking forward is to start with extrapolations. If you extrapolate the likely progress in technology, what might it look like in 5 years? If you extrapolate the likelihood of entry and customers' willingness to pay, what is the likely profitability of robotaxis? Consumers seem uncomfortable with riding in AVs today. Will that change in 5 years? If so, why? And regulations are a patchwork in 2021. Is there likely to be a broader, more coherent regulatory framework in 5 years? If so, why or why not? There is a deep debate on whether or not robotaxis are going to emerge in 5 years and to what extent. Think about these issues. Why will consumers accept or reject this technology? If they are fearful today, will they be fearful in the future? What if prices are much cheaper? See Exhibits 3 and 5. Uber and Lyft have been raising prices in 2021. Does that make robotaxis more or less attractive? What will be critical for profitability and utilization? How do you get high utilization or saturation in a geographic area? Is this a winner-take-all business or not? Will it be concentrated or fragmented, concentrated by city, but probably many global players? Are there substitutes which could affect willingness to pay? For example, taxis, ride sharing, mass transit, unless cities start to geofence areas for AVs only. Why is regulation important? Unlike Uber, firms probably cannot launch without government approvals. What will government likely want to see in order to approve it? After thinking about these issues, try to draw interpretations from your forecast. What do we conclude about the dynamics of each? There is no right answer, but think of these implications. The bottom line is that there will be a number of robotaxi opportunities around the world. It should be a high-growth business, though margins may be challenged. Ultimately, robotaxis will be a taxi. It will be a commodity service with many substitutes. There is unlikely to be significant differentiation between robotaxis. Safety is a requirement, not a differentiator. The differences between firms may be costs, and therefore price, the riding experience, and the range of the service, geofenced or not geofenced, etc. This leads to the next problem area. Given that we see a future, albeit a low-margin future, for robotaxis, what's your assessment of Mobileye's strategy to address this future? Has Shashua and his team reasoned back effectively to realize this vision? As the case describes, Mobileye has developed 6 strategic thrusts to address this market. 1. Crowdsourcing HD maps called Road Experience Management or REM. 2. Mobileye published its Responsibility Sensitivity Safety Model in 2017, which was a mathematical model that mimicked how humans made safety decisions. 3. Supervision, which proposed a combination of multiple cameras with new radar and new LiDAR technologies. 4. True redundancy, which Mobileye described reducing the mean time between failures, or MTBFs. 5. A lower cost solution, which the company believes might be significant. And 6. Creating a full stack services solution, which was called Mobility as a Service, or MaaS. The Mobileye strategy is complicated. Diving into each of the various components of the strategy would probably take a full hour. Therefore, here is a simpler evaluation of the strategy, citing pros and cons of the various elements. One of the more interesting and fun areas to explore is the RSS, which had 5 foundational tenets. Safe distance, in other words, don't hit the car in front of you. Cutting in, don't cut in recklessly. Right of way is given, not taken. Limited visibility, be cautious in areas with limited visibility. Avoiding crashes, if you can avoid a crash without causing another one, you must. The RSS sought to balance safety and utility. As Shashua explained, if you drive too carefully, you are not useful, but you also cannot drive recklessly. We need to determine mathematically what is the dividing line between being too careful and too reckless. That is what RSS is all about. Do robotaxis and AVs need something comparable to Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics? Are these the right laws? Rather than dive into the detailed vertical integration part of the strategy, look at this final question. Should Mobileye CEO Shashua recommend to Intel's new CEO to invest billions of dollars to build out a global vertically integrated robotaxi business, use robotaxis as an opportunity to learn and then revert back to a horizontal supplier of AV chips and software, or do both? Usually, about 10% of students say to build out a global robotaxi business. About 10% says to do both, and 80% vote to revert back to a horizontal technology supplier. The debate should focus on 2 or 3 key themes. If Mobileye commits to a global robotaxi business, what's the cost? Is $10 billion enough? Does it make sense for Intel to build a robotaxi business versus building another semiconductor fab? Does the strategy of MAAS, VAAS, RAAS, and XAAS really make sense? Can Mobileye and Intel, who are product and technology companies, run a vertically integrated service business? Horizontal provider of technology sounds obvious, but will OEMs, Tesla, Apple, and others incorporate Intel Mobileye technology? Everyone is trying to do this themselves. Is both feasible? Will an OEM accept Mobileye's technology if Mobileye is competing with the OEM in the robotaxi business? Does co-opetition make sense in this industry? Before we dive into the discussion question, I return to a key theme from Strategy Rules, the trap of the first version. Look at these questions, which concern a debate over what's the best strategy going forward. There are no right answers, but you should connect your recommendation to the prior analysis. In summary, Amnon Shashua spoke to a Harvard class stating that the company is pursuing both in late 2021. Shashua argued that Cruise, Waymo, and Zoox were betting the company with their strategy to optimize exclusively for robotaxis. They were making asset-specific investments in robotaxis, which would not easily translate into consumer AVs. For example, Zoox was building a special purpose vehicle that would only make sense for robotaxi or last mile delivery for Amazon, not consumer AVs. If the biggest segment in the future is consumer AVs, these companies will struggle. Mobileye was focusing its approach or making consumer AVs into a reality by building robotaxis, learning how they work, and improving the technology. If the robotaxi business evolves into a great business, it would be easy for Mobileye to adapt its strategy. If consumer AVs turn out to be the best business, it can pivot to that segment without wasting billions of dollars on robotaxi specific investments. In December 2021, the CEO of Intel, Pat Gelsinger, announced that Intel would spin off Mobileye. Intel would retain a large and probably majority ownership, but a spinoff was expected to value Mobileye at more than $50 billion. This would raise significant capital for Intel and give Mobileye more strategic flexibility. Since Intel would remain the dominant shareholder, the most important questions in the case remain extremely relevant. Intel would still need to sign off on major strategic moves. Thanks for listening to the case.